Now, more than just a spin, he got up into the curbs, though not up into the barrier. What do you think?
He wants to get started, but you can hear all the crunching, and he's probably got some alignment problems right now if he doesn't have anything broken, serious, Paul.
And it looks like the area is in is a little bit off the course, so he should be safe. Yeah, there you can see. In fact, Scott Brayton obviously got into trouble in the same situation trying to get around Al. They're now trying to get Brayton's car restarted.
Out of sight of the camera, I think what really happened is they probably had just a little bit of touch in each other, and that got them both out of control.
So the yellow flag will fly in that corner only, while they get both of those cars either out of the way or back into the fight. And Nigel Mansell, running in second place, climbs over the curbs. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Not 100 yards from the backstretch on the Esplanade here is the beautiful beach at Surfers Paradise, enjoyed by everyone here in the Indy cars on their trip to Australia. How'd you like to have that job? Little suntan oil machine. On the race course itself, it is Emerson Fittipaldi out in front, a slight edge over Nigel Mansell. Robbie Gordon is third, Mario Andretti is fourth. Ari Luyendyk now rides in fifth position. In sixth, it's Eddie Cheever, followed by Teo Fabi. Bobby Rahal has moved up to eighth. Stefan Johansson is ninth. In 10th is Raul Boesel. 11th, Roberto Guerrero, followed by Danny Sullivan, Buddy Lazier, Gary Brabham, Jeff's brother, Hiro Matsushita, and then in fifth place, Marco Greco, followed by Robbie Buell and Jimmy Vasser. Those cars are all on the leader lap with the leader, Emerson Fittipaldi. Further down in 19th place is Montermini, Scott Goodyear, Scott Brayton, Al Unser Jr., Mark Smith, and Ross Bentley. Here is the situation, Bobby. It looked like Scott Brayton may have tapped Little Al.
Well, I'm sure that's what happened. We don't see it quite as plain as we'd like on it, but the two of them got together. This Brady Cousin, of course, went out of control going to that chicane. Scott has sat there an awful long time. Little Al, we heard it crunch when it hit the curbing, so that wasn't good.
Still at that corner, they're trying to get those cars restarted, cleared, and out of the way. I'd hate to be in Scott Goodyear or the Scott Brayton's cockpit right now.
Oh, man, he sees one of those cars coming down on him every time, but just a little bit further on Tracy a little bit.
And Al Unser Jr. does get it fired, and he rolls back into the action, but he's fallen several laps behind. He is in 22nd position. Let's get an update on the Gallus team in general from Gary Gerald.
Well, Rick Gallus just got the good news. The Little Al is back under power, but there's further bad news. Danny Sullivan, his other driver, has a motor miss in the engine right now. His performance is definitely off. One other note from this end of the pit, no telemetry, no radio for Stefan Johansson. He's got one of the new Penske chassis. They've got mechanical gremlins, but he's still on the racetrack. Paul?
Well, if you're going to have something break, I think I'd rather it be the radio than almost anything else on the race car.
Yes, for sure.
Back riding with Mansell, he chases Fittipaldi. You were talking about Paul Tracy and the long repair they are doing on that car. And why are they even doing it, Bobby?
Well, number one, the rod that bent is similar to an axle problem. It comes from jumping over the curb like you can see the guys doing there. But the reason that Penske wants to get back in is he realizes that training his driver is just as important as trying to get the car working good. So his driver needs the time on the racetrack, and he needs it with other drivers under racing conditions.
Now let's watch this, because here now is where Fittipaldi, if he should have any advantage at all over Mansell, will have it. And that is when he closes on slower cars. Because Fittipaldi, for the most part, knows and has raced with all of these drivers, and Mansell is not. So Mansell, it would seem, would have to be more careful.
Well, he has been. We watched the start. He was more careful. We watch it right now. He's been very careful, but he's been moving up and getting more aggressive. And as the race goes on, he will do that some more. But I've been watching Emil coming off some of the turns, and he's been popping the rear end loose a little bit more. Mansell right now, to me, has been looking a little bit smoother.
Jimmy Vasser moves over and lets them through. Robbie Gordon is closing. Vasser, by the way, started this race with the third fastest Chevy in qualifying, behind only the Marlboro Penskes.
Now that little sachet you saw right there was Mansell taking a run at Fittipaldi. He'll be attempting a pass before very long. Now watch how smooth that Mansell's car is sitting on the track. Doesn't jerk around as much as Emil's does. And another thing, when you see Mansell jumping the curbs, like watch going through this S. That was the wrong one there, but watch when he goes through them. He jumps the curves, but he doesn't get on the gas, so it doesn't hurt the axles and the transmission as much.
Down the pit straight. Still chasing Fittipaldi. Robbie Gordon was able to get around the slower car of Jimmy Vasser, and has now rejoined this pursuit. And as a matter of fact, as they have moved through traffic, it's begun to close the front end up a little bit, and they're in closer contact. Only fight in the field is right here at the front right now. Nothing has changed down through the order.
These straightaways are so long here, and there's so many of them, that when you run down the straightaways, as close as Mansell is to Emo, he can really pick up a draft and do a little bit of slipstreaming there, Paul.
Mansell still in pursuit. Chevy Penske Power in front. Ford Cosworth and Alola in second place. Notice, too, yet another car off in that corner, but it didn't look to be part of the original incident. Still yellow flags flying on part of the course. Nigel Mansell thus far has been the quickest on the circuit at 100.5 miles an hour. Quickest car thus far. Let's go pit side again in Jackaroo.
Well, Paul, let's update you on several stories. First, Paul Tracy, the repairs have been completed. He will be going out shortly. Behind me is the telemetry that's being utilized by Arie Luyendyk's car. It went out at the drop of the green flag. It has only come back up and began to spew out numbers and information in the last 2 laps. That was leaving Luyendyk's crew flying blind. Further up pit road, Bobby Rahal reporting on the radio that Carl Hogan continues to tell him to conserve the brakes. They're a little concerned about the brakes and how much they'll have left for the end of the race.
Both fuel and brakes now.
Yes, brakes are always a problem. Here we have, again, a very fast racetrack, long straightaways, high speeds, hard braking at the end of those things. I watched yesterday in practice, probably half the teams were putting on bigger air scoops, the air that cools the brakes.
The scoop, you actually can see one there inside of Bobby Rahal's front wheel. Big open area, ducts the air onto the disc brake and hopefully helps with the cooling. Actually does a pretty good job of helping it.
Yes, it does, and they just have different sizes. Of course, the bigger the scoop, the slower it goes down the straightaway because it's pushing air. The smaller it is, the faster it goes.
Nothing changes at the front. The field runs static at the moment as Fittipaldi is still the leader of the race. The defending champion here scored the first victory for the Chevrolet B engine. And the beautiful beach at Surfers Paradise. Look at those waves rolling in. Some of them are remnants of Cyclone Roger, not named for Roger Penske, but Cyclone Roger that passed through here earlier in the week. At the front of the field, it is still Fittipaldi, followed by Mansell and Robbie Gordon. Wow.
Right now.
Whoa. And here comes Nigel Mansell as he comes inside of Fittipaldi. He used the advantage of a back marker that was sitting by the edge of the course, put himself into a great position and does what he does so incredibly well. Jumped on those brakes at the last second and got past Fittipaldi. And Robbie Gordon is now right there to challenge Fittipaldi as well.
You know, ironically, he didn't really want to do that to Emo. He put Emo in a very embarrassing position. Watch this. He comes in. He's got both front tires locked up as much as he can lock them up. He's embarrassed because he really did Emo wrong, but he couldn't help it. Once he was committed, he had to continue on. The guy that was good and smart on that was Emo because he avoided an accident, Paul.
So you're saying that he did him wrong and that he really shouldn't have come in slapping inside like that?
That's right. He was out of control. Nigel was going in there out of control with brakes locked up. No way to turn, no way to do anything. If Emo would have kept going with his line, there obviously would have been a wreck.
I don't know. I thought it was kind of fun to watch. Spectacular piece of driving.
It certainly was. But
here's on board, and Mansell is so capable of driving inside somebody. Look at that.
he didn't want to do that. It's slippery in there. But once he was in there and committed, he'd been running in on Emo like that and thought he could get by him, but Emo probably went a little bit deeper. I think Emo's had hot brakes and been easing off a little bit on them, Paul.
Smoke pouring off of Nigel Mansell's tires as he came off of that maneuver, though. How much damage may he have done?
Not very much on the front tires. If he'd locked up the rears, that's where all the weight is and the down pressure is, so the fronts wouldn't have hurt all that much.
Now back behind Fittipaldi, as you're looking back from Mansell's car, is Robbie Gordon in car number 14. And he is beginning to worry Fittipaldi.
Yes, now if you watch, Emo slid back quite a ways here. Now, it's very possible that Emo's not having good brakes, that he's having problems with them, because Mansell was really beating him into the turn before. Now Robbie's right on his bumper and going to see how bad his brakes are, if they are, because Robbie will do a pass just like Mansell did.
16 laps are complete at Surfers Paradise, the first race of the PPG IndyCar World Series. The window for fuel stops should open by lap 22, though the indication earlier was that the Penske team may even bring their cars in earlier. Certainly that would be true of Fittipaldi because Tracy is no longer a factor.
I don't think they're going to be able to make it to lap 22, Paul. And the reason is they have 3 warm-ups. It's a long ways around this track. They use a lot of fuel. I think the guy's going to have to come in around 19 laps.
The sky is clear. The sun is shining, as you can see there. What does that do to the fuel situation? Does a hotter day burn more fuel?
No, it really doesn't change it. They're all computerized, and the temperature isn't really changing. So if the sun comes out, what it's going to do is it'll slow the racetrack down because it beats on it and makes the rubber a little bit more slippery. Contrary to what people think, a dry, clean racetrack is the fastest. When it gets rubber on it and the sun hits it, it gets slippery.
Watching Nigel Mansell in front of the field. The look back to Fittipaldi, who has now begun to close in once again. He's just under a second behind. And Robbie Gordon watches. Now let's take a look at this. This is that pass. Now as they come around, did he pass under yellow?
No, he didn't, because it's only a turn yellow. He really got him in a good place, just under the cloak, I guess.
How do they do that rule then? I thought the minute they see the yellow flag that was it. He couldn't pass until he got beyond the incident.
No, it isn't when you see it, Paul. It's the turn on road circuits. It's yellow just in the turn that they're showing the yellow, or it could be yellows, plural, on down around the racetrack.
So Mansell taking advantage then of both the slower car and the yellow flag that was in front of him, but you say perfectly dead on legal.
I think he took the advantage at that particular time just because he couldn't avoid it. He had committed himself into that turn too deep, and he had to go on by.
Update on a couple of drivers. Al Unser Jr. is now 3 laps behind the race, and Paul Tracy is back out on the track, but he is 9 laps behind the race itself. Still 16 cars running on the leader lap. Nigel Mansell the leader, followed by Fittipaldi, Gordon, Mario Andretti, Arie Luyendyk. The only thing that has changed is at the front of the field.
Now, as you watch Nigel, he's leading the race. Emmo's right there behind. If you watch him going through the chicanes, the curbs again that we were talking about, he isn't jumping the curbs near as bad when he's leading the race as he was when he's following Emmo. Now, that's because that the leading car...
Now the report is that Nigel Mansell will receive a stop-and-go penalty for passing under the yellow, Bobby.
Well, I was wrong about that. The yellow must have been waving where he saw it, or excuse me, where he was when he passed Emmo.
So Nigel Mansell, the leader of the race, should see Jim Swintel give him the black flag indicating that he has to come in for a stop-and-go penalty, and that will give the race back to Emerson Fittipaldi.
It really hurts, especially on a road circuit, a stop-and-go penalty, because Emmo will keep going as fast as he can go, and the stop-and-goes have to be under the green, not under the yellow.
But is that an example of the kind of learning curve